My very first facility, the reason that we found it is because ultimately I had gotten pregnant and I didn't want to flip houses anymore. So I had to get really good at finding money, right? Because you couldn't go to a bank and get a loan. Like now everybody just like goes to a bank, gets a loan. But you just couldn't do that during those times. So when I got into like real estate investing, ultimately they were really pushing, like my coaches were pushing creative deal structures and the way that you can get like private money lenders and things like this. That was really kind of what happened during the time. So when I went out and I was driving for storage, and when I went out talking and talking to owners, that is really kind of how I built my business up. It was 64 units. So it wasn't a very big facility. And it also had another like 60 parking spaces. So it was total of 120, around 120 spaces that I could make money from. So as I walked the property, I just said, okay, there's 64 10 by 10s. I could probably get about $50 a month on those. That sounds good to me. And the parking, I could probably get another $50. And so I just kind of calculated it up and I was like, okay, this thing should be making around like $10,000 a month. And when I talked to the owner, because he was there walking the property with me, I said, like, how much are you making? And he said $2,000.
Oh my gosh.
So I automatically knew that like there was some upside. I just offered right then and there. I actually brought my lender with me, one of my lenders with me too. And I said, just come and look and see if you think that this storage thing is a good idea. And he had given me quite a bit of money. I could just see Rick. I could see like dollar signs in his eyes.
Like storage, it was like that. It was kind of like the old stepchild, the asset classes. And now it's becoming more smart, consolidated with tech and everything.
Now it's like there's a lot of rules and stuff. There's like you got to be on top of it. There's a lot of competition, and you just have to be really good at marketing and stuff. And that facility that we bought, we're in the process of actually selling it, but it was really, really, really good. It did very well, and we have now like our competition is Life Storage and CubeSmart.
Yep.
That's one thing I teach my students now is like who your competition is going to be now and later, right? Because ultimately, when we bought that facility, there were no storage. There was like one rinky tinky, ugly, nasty one across the street, and that was it. That's ultimately kind of how storage is gone.
I ended up buying the joke in the family was really, is the baby going to come first or is the storage facility going to come first? And so it took about 9.5 months to really like find my first storage facility that we wanted to buy. And then pull the trigger on it. And so we bought, and I thought I was going to buy one in California. I live in Sacramento, California, which is Northern California, the capital, and very expensive, right? And so definitely put in a few offers. When you get out competed by $300,000 based on what it was not worth, I was like, I got to get out of California. So analyzed a lot of deals and found my first facility in Louisiana out of all the places. If you know Louisiana, there is some not so great pockets, and then there's oil and gas pockets. And so we found a really great city and town that was growing, and this facility just penciled. It ended up being a larger facility, so it was $3.1 million. And I was like, bought my first house was $300,000. So, to add one more zero on top of that, it's that mindset shift. And so I went in with two other partners and I was like, okay, how do you even take a $3.1 million, storage facility down in business? And so the two other partners came in and we just did an SBA loan. So
did y'all like form a company together and then just all buy it together? A little bit of money in? Dude, that's only like 300 grand or so. I mean, they probably make you put a little bit more in.
Yes, exactly. So that's, and that's the biggest thing I want to talk about is like getting in. A lot of people are like, how do I find a good facility? And then I don't have enough money, that mindset piece, which you really have to grow to that next standard. And then being open to exploring partnerships, right? And the right partnerships, because you really need to make sure legally everyone is safe. You talked about the hard concepts, right? Because it's a relationship. So each of us own 33% as a GP in that deal. And we divide it with, who's good at marketing skill sets, who's good at underwriting, who's good at operations, and then development.
What did you end up doing?
I know. So I actually end up doing the money part and the marketing pieces. And then I also bring more deals to the table for the group.
So you're partnering now. You're trying to partner more times with these people too.
Yes. So we actually bought another facility about 20 minutes away from there. That was like the second one, which we did with a seller financing deal, way, way easier. But the things that I learned was when you go in on your first deal, what I wish I would have done, and what I talk about with my self-storage school students, is always asking, the seller or the bank if there is an assumable loan. And if they say, no, there's not, still going to that bank in that local community and having a conversation locally with the bank that currently has that loan in place. We did not do that. And so going the SBA route was definitely treacherous. And so we bought in 2022. So 2022 versus 2018. And this was the 9 months where interest rates increased. And so the lesson we learned is you underwrite a deal at 4% interest, right? Right. And we ended up locking in that SBA loan at 5.75, 6.25, because it's two parts of the SBA
It's
504.
variable, it's fixed.
But it took us 9 months to do it. So we had an SBA bridge, which is never a good idea.
7% interest is good, just as long as you're running your numbers on that.
Exactly. But when you underwrite it at a 4% and you just watch your cash flow disappear because it took 9 months
Yeah.
to
Exactly what happened, right? That's what happened
Mhm.
during all those years. That's why
Yeah.
all these people try to sell their
And
facility.
it's still a great deal. I guess what I'd like people to think about instead of just the interest rate is how is your deal structured, right? Is it structured for success? So even though an SBA is great, there's multiple products that you can go into. Ours is fixed, which is wonderful. But at the same time, when you get one thing, the bank wants to take more things from you. And so we ended up with an SBA 504. You have a 10-year step down penalty. And so you are locked in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're already like year 8 on our first facility, and I'm like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, no, but it's a great deal, and it's 45,000 square feet, and then we have a cell tower on there in addition to we're gonna add another 40,000 square feet of climate controlled to that facility as we see the need of it. That's phase 3. What is one thing that you learned, right, in your deal? Was it like when you even operationally? I know you have to think back from them.
I think for us, because we buy severely mismanaged facilities, like the one in just dumpy, horrible facilities. And, I think we took a little bit too long to really kind of clean all them up and stuff. And the reason why is we got them at such great deals. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, whatever, who cares? We'll just take it over on. But ultimately, when you buy a facility, I really feel like, you should really get that thing stabilized, automated as quickly as you possibly cleaned up, looking good. You don't want to drag that on too much. But the real thing is like you want to get it to where it's looking and it's get up, with the best possible rates that you possibly can at that time.
We teach this too. It's like going in with an operational plan, like a 30, 60, 90-day plan where, once you take over, and I know we semi did this, but we were so overwhelmed in the beginning for the first 6 months that I wish someone said, it's kind of like when you have a baby, like you're ready, like the 9 months, you're just worried about getting the baby out safe and everyone's healthy. And then you're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, now I've got to. Yeah, so I feel like the storage facility, you guys, is the same thing. Everyone's worried about getting the deal, getting it done, signing the papers, getting like the title, like all the things. And we need to also be thinking about the 30, 60, 90-day plan, as soon as you get the keys in your hand. Yes.
Because that's the one thing that I notice is that people are just like, they're worried about the money during this time and everything that needs to do with the money and closing the deal, but they're not really worried about like what's going to happen as of day one. And then they're just sitting there for like a month or 2 months trying to figure out everything else. So I think that onboarding, and a lot of times with these softwares, it takes forever now. Like I remember it took like 3 days to get like storage up and running. Now it takes like 6 weeks or something, but you're also like ultimately getting everything ready so that in that first week of transition, you are able to take payments from tenants. Because the rule is if you can't take payments, then you ain't making no money. I don't think a lot of people realize how difficult it is to manage a storage facility. It's just really not easy, and so like I don't really want anybody to believe that you just buy it, put a sign up, and then if it'll work out great and stuff, because it's just not like that anymore. It really isn't. COVID kind of screwed everything up. There's a lot of competition out there, so you have to be on top of it. So if you're like, just like you said, she was an entrepreneur, she was a business owner. If you don't know how to look at a P&L, if you don't know how to look at a balance sheet, if you don't look at your numbers every single day, if you look at prices on a monthly basis, then you have to train yourself to be able to do that. If you spend an hour or so a day really kind of looking at your numbers and pricing and competition, you will be on top of it. I have a student that he like went to the Philippines for like 2 months and like came back and he's like, oh my God, my storage facilities are falling apart, and he was like freaking out.
This
It's
is
like,
the stuff that, like, I think if you don't know what you don't know and you put yourself in a good capacity with mentors and coaches that have done it before, are only, like maybe 5 places above you, like, you're gonna learn that what the important pieces that Stacy and I are making right now is that, it's A, finding the good deal, carving that off and buying it for the right price, which is really important. Number 2, it's like
mhm.
structuring that deal with the funding piece. And then number 3, it's like operating with systems and making sure that your systems are working well, like a well-oiled machine. And then you're also having eyeballs on it still. Like you're looking through the KPIs, even if you do have a boots on the ground, right? You're still it is a business, right? It's a business and a commercial real estate asset, and we have to treat it like that. And so I feel like if you have all three of those like a triangle, it gets to be easy. In the beginning, your first deal though, like we wanted to talk about, is the hardest. And I tell my storage school students is your first deal, just like your first kid, is going to be your business baby. And it's not going to feel good. You're going to get out of your comfort zone. You're going to fall on your face. And then you got to pick yourself up and do it again, right? Until you have a really great, system. Every market's different, but you can, if you do get good at operations, taking that system, picking it up and putting it on another property like you did and scaling. And so that's what I always like to say, like, if you can learn those three skill sets, you can have success, you can scale and you can grow and do it the right way.
And it's like so quiet. It's so quiet. I'm going to tell you, we have a lot of tenants. We have thousands of tenants. And, once you really focus on getting the systems, getting everything in place, getting your SOPs, getting everything done, it really is not easy. It's not difficult. Right? One of the most valuable things about being in a community is just listening to what other people say. We had our owner mastermind yesterday, and like we have one guy that kind of like one student, and he comes always every month with a list of questions of his storage facility. And he was asking random questions, like just very small questions that you would never even think. Like, okay, so what about the Da Vinci locks? Like, what's going on? Like, can I use those when I'm doing personal locks or overlocks? And he's just like really digging deep into like all these little tiny mechanics that people don't really think about. And it's not just for owners, it's for anybody, but that is really the purpose of having the community, because I've talked to many, many owners that really are just kind of just blindly just testing things out and then just like hoping for the best. And I can tell you, those people that bought from 2020 to 2022 or 2023, they are really having a tough time right now. A
Yeah.
lot of them. That's why there's so many facilities for sale. You know, I think, they need to either, stay strong and just push through and really get around people that know how to help them,
Absolutely.
or hopefully they have enough spread they could sell those properties.
Hands down. No, I think you nailed it. And it's learning how to do a customer service and operational systems. It's an operations right now. We're in an operations wake up call. I'm calling it. And the people who
Yes.
have not woken up are the ones that we want to buy, right? We want to buy those ones because those are the value add facilities that have not been squeezed. So this is for people that I always like to say it's like people have had their pencils down for the past like year and a half because of a lot of the market uncertainty. And so the people that are invested now that have been doing the work, have been learning how to do the underwriting, look at the numbers, see the spread, see the opportunity, are the ones that are going to take advantage and get in and buy and ride this wave to the top when it is now going to be a seller market later on. I'm sure you hear this all the time, Stacey. It's like, I don't have the money. I have got so much going on. I've got kids, I've got games and all the summer stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, there's never going to be a great time. It's like, I feel like it's like return on grit, ROG, return on grit. How much do
Yeah.
you want that? Like, how much do you want that, being able to scale your portfolios and work from home and have that time freedom?